In Alignment with Highbloo is a podcast about the real psychology behind the life in music. Not the highlight reel, not the career recap, the actual internal architecture. Why artists do what they do, what they're chasing, what they're running from, and whether any of it is actually aligned with who they are. Each episode is one honest conversation with one artist, going deeper than any interview they've ever done. Today's guest is Sylvio B, a Paris-born DJ and producer who was adopted by the queer underground of Germany, mentored by one of its legends, played Berghain, and released music with Robert Owens. In this conversation, we landed on something neither of us planned to say, that we shouldn't be teaching people to be happy. Instead, we should be teaching people to find the right mindset, and that happiness is what just comes after. By the end of this episode, you'll understand why the most aligned artists aren't chasing trends and why that's exactly what makes them last. First question. Forget the artist's name and the brand for a second. Who are you when literally nobody's watching, not even online?
Music is a big part of my life. Maybe it sounds cliche, but when nobody's watching, when my social media is turned off, I'm really a musician at heart, so I'm constantly in my studio. I wish I had a different answer, but I'm always playing the piano, writing new melodies. There's always a track I need to finish, so I'm always constantly in my studio. I really live a life filled with music on a day-to-day basis, and of course I've got my friends. I've got internet friends as well, so I can do the typical things like everyone does: go to the movies, grab a drink, go to the restaurant. I live in a quite dynamic neighborhood in Paris, so there's always something to do. Most of the time, I'm actually I live a lonely life, I would say. When nobody's watching, I'm just a lonely person making music. That's quite basic, but that's the truth. Yeah,
I mean, amazing answer, right? This podcast is about alignment, so that means that you're like aligned with your purpose. Right now, your purpose is making music. If there was no society telling you to post on social media or do whatever, you'd still be doing the same thing. Now, the tricky one. Let's say music gets banned tomorrow, permanently, worldwide. What do you actually become?
I love traveling. So maybe I would work in the tourist sector. I don't know. Maybe working with tourists, I would definitely, or maybe a steward. Maybe I'd do that. Working, like being on a plane and traveling from destination to destination. That would be something I would do. There's no music involved. And yeah, I've always loved to travel. And I'm a passionate person. So I guess that's what I would do. And that's why I became a DJ as well in the first place. You get to travel a lot, so that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, so the music is also the door for you to travel. What is it about traveling that you crave?
It's adventure. I've always been adventurous and I like adventure. I like to challenge myself and sometimes put myself at risk. And when you travel, you can find sometimes yourself in situations you did not expect, which is, I think, quite interesting. And of course, I'm very passionate about people deeply. And I'm very curious. I'm always curious to discover new cultures, new ways of life, new mindsets. And I'm inspired by people, actually. So traveling, is like, I cannot just stay in one place. It's a real need to travel, and I crave the adventure, and I'm the kind of person that lives day to day, and that will be a part of it.
Yeah, because I read in your bio that you are from Paris, but it's Germany that kind of like made you who you are, what you're doing right now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Was there another place also had a big impact on you?
Well, I'm from Paris, so obviously Paris shapes me as well. I'm a huge fan of French touch, basically. So outside of Germany, that's of course the city that shaped me the most. Even though that's true, I love to travel and I always like to discover new cities and new destinations. I'm still passionate about my hometown. I'm passionate about Paris and I'm passionate about the culture here, which is so diverse. And growing up in Paris, I could feel several influences that shaped me. Just in my home, growing up, I'm mixed race, so my father, was listening to Freddie Mercury a lot and classic music, and my mother, she's from Africa, Cameroon, Africa, and she would listen to a lot of African music. And this diversity in growing up musically definitely did shape me today. And Paris is a very diverse city. You've got all kinds of people. It's one of the most diverse cities in Europe. So you can find people coming from everywhere. I grew up in a neighborhood, there were many people coming from Northern Africa, and this shaped me as well musically. There were people listening to urban music, techno music, there's everything. So yes, Paris definitely did have a huge impact on me. I can really realize that now, taking a step back, yeah.
All right, if your entire body of work disappeared tonight and you could keep just one song, which one? And is it actually the best one or just the one that means the most?
Okay, so I get to keep only one song on all my discography. Maybe Last Forever with Robert Owens, because it's Robert Owens, I'm just such a huge fan of Robert Owens. And Robert Owens is house music, it's Chicago. And besides, it's my first EP. The whole EP is called Last Forever, but there is one song called Last Forever as well. And I can hear the song, the sound is Chicago, When you asked me earlier what is the city that inspired me the most, I've never been to Chicago, but it definitely did inspire me a lot. It's, you can hear like some urban sounds inside of it. It's very nostalgic, very melancholic. And once again, Robert Owens, who has an incredible voice. It does mean a lot to me. So yeah. I don't think it's my best song actually. I think obviously when you produce music, you grow. Song after song, you grow. And I would say I did not better, but I evolved. And but yeah, Last Forever would be the song that's very that means a lot to me for sure.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's a nice one. Okay, now it's gonna be about the fact of proving. I believe that we all, to some extent, had a story, a part of our life where we met someone, whether it's our parents or someone close to us that challenged us, that we kind of wanted to prove something to, or either to ourselves, right? Because we're still caught up in that thing. Although, be honest, huh? How much of what you've built is love for the craft, and how much is making sure nobody can ever doubt you?
Maybe it's 70% for the craft and 30% that to prove something. Yes. Now that I think about it, obviously I've always, as I told you, I've always been a passionate of music, and I wanted to imitate my heroes, I wanted to do like them. I told you about Chicago, Robert Owens, but there are many other names, Sean G. Wright, Alinka, so many other music producers that I first wanted to kind of imitate. I wanted to do like them, and I was passionate about learning how to produce music like them. So it was really for the love of crafts. It still is today, it's always been a very personal goal, and I would say the first person I want to prove something overall is myself. I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. Like I've always had some issues in terms of self-confidence, I would say, growing up since early child. Yeah, I wanted to prove to myself that I could handle it, and I could actually do a proper song, which is why I am so dedicated, and I always try to push myself. I push myself a lot when it comes to music production. I want to do better every time when nobody's watching, and it's only me against myself. And because I know how hard I had to work, to release the songs that I release now. And but on the other hand, now that you talk about it, maybe there's a 30-20% somewhere that needs to prove to others. And when I say others, I would say it's first my heroes, as I told you, because I know that the heroes I had growing up are listening to my music. They know me. I'm fortunate enough to know them personally. And when I send them new songs, I want them to tell me that I want them to like it. Of course, I want them to tell me that I did a good job. And there's nothing like getting validation from your heroes. That's the feeling that you cannot. There's no amount of money that can be equal to this. It's something like when I've got like one of my main heroes, from Chicago that tells me you did good. Like it's better than all the amount of money in the world. So I want to prove them that yes, I've worked hard, and now I can make that, and it's a validation that I appreciate a lot. But I think it's important that you do it first for yourself. I think you cannot work always thinking I do it for others and I want other people's validation, because you can get the validation of a few people, your heroes, but basically overall, no one, you will never get full validation, because there's always someone who will tell you, I like this track more than the other one, or I don't like this EP, but some people will like it. You cannot get full validation. So I think it's very important that you do it for yourself at first, otherwise you will be discouraged. Like you were mentioning earlier, those people who are craving for success or fame or whatever, I guess. At some point you give up because you never get it. You never get, no one gets to a point like, yes, I'm successful, I made it. Yes. I mean, at least the people I know, even though to me they're successful, on their part they're still trying, they're still pushing themselves to reach a certain point, you know. And I don't think you can ever reach that point. You always want more, you know. That's how human beings are made, basically. That's my point of view. So
I know exactly what you mean, because like my ultimate DJ at the time was Brodinski. So he started playing my tracks, and it was like he was like my number one supporter. He was playing all my tracks, and then like the whole scene started playing my stuff, and I was playing with everybody, all my heroes, Justice, and these guys, you know, all the time. So I know exactly what you mean. I always feel that this is when I think about it in hindsight, now that I'm like 36 years old, I've stopped music and I'm coming back to music. I feel like I've achieved already what I needed to achieve as a person personally, you know. Yes, there's bigger than just this. Yes, I could say like, oh, I want to do something with Jamiroquai or whatever, but it's not, those were not my heroes specifically. So anyways, I think there's still a point where I myself feel that I'm not trying to really chase more, because I've experimented like what I wanted to experiment, and now I'm just more moved about the process itself.
but still you want to push yourself to do more.
I am pushing myself because otherwise I'm bored. I'm pushing myself, but not for the same reason as before. So when I was like in my 20s, it was like I had to achieve. Now it's really like I've achieved almost everything that I wanted to achieve, even in the business I built and stuff like that. But when you get all these things, you're like, wow, it's actually boring to get these things. You know, it's actually boring to get to your target, because then when you're there, you're like, but what the fuck am I doing now? So now in my life, like I'm like, the only reason I do what I do is because I'm fucking bored, and I've understood that the goals I had, like the fun thing about the goal was always like the process to get there, you know. So yes, I take the rock and I throw it further away, like you say, like go further, but I kind of like don't care about going there, because I will still throw it, and like because I know that really the best shit in life is walking towards the thing and not getting there. Getting there is so boring.
But like you're saying that your goals have changed, you know, there's been a shift in your goals. It's not the same as it used to. To push yourself, like you're back at music production, for example, you're back at making music now. It's those are new goals, you know. It's not the fact of getting like success or validation or something like that, but it's you're trying to push yourself to achieve something more. So these are new goals that you decided for yourself. And do you think there will be like one moment where you will like be able to tell, I've really reached everything now and I stop, because you said yourself you're going to get bored if that happens? So maybe that's the aim of everything. Like you're doing all of this in order maybe the goal is to never reach it. You know, you're working hard towards something that you know is unreachable. So you're always going to try to push. If it's not with music, you're going to shift again to something else. You know, that's part of life, to, you know, trying to pursue something that is not reachable.
I don't have really goals anymore. I have systems. So it like I used to be goal focused and be like, I want to achieve like this is where, but my framing has completely shifted. Like I don't really have goals. I have systems, which means, okay, how can I be doing something that I'm so passionate about that it obviously create things. Everything that is created is the byproduct of this system that I'm putting in place because I want to be doing those things. But I don't think of a goal.
It's part of your routine, you would say. It's like a routine now to make music without absolutely any goal in mind. Is that right? Is that what you're saying?
I make music, but at the moment I make maybe 10% of my time music, but I have a trading business that I run, and then like I have this podcast, and then I have my social media, and then I have like this YouTube channel I'm also growing. Like this whole thing that I'm doing, the mission behind it, like it's to actually convey tons of things, like it should actually be aligned with tons of like depth that I want to share, but it's actually doing that sharing of the depth that matters to me. So there's not actually a goal. It's like doing these things So it has an impact because it's aligned with my soul, and hopefully it does impact people. Maybe this conversation impacts people. Maybe the music I make impacts people. Maybe the YouTube channel I create impacts people and stuff like that. It's more of a system, and it's more like the byproduct of what I'm doing.
It maybe depends on the definition of goal, because you got like goals that I want to be famous, I want to make it, and there are goals like I want to release a new song, I want to start a YouTube channel that's going to work, I want to do, and these are all kind of those goals itself, and this is that as far as I'm concerned, that's goals that motivate me, and we all need some kind of motivation in life, you know.
Yeah.
If you do have no motivation or no goals, I think like personally I'd be dead inside, you know. I need something to wake me up in the morning. I need something like I'm waking up today because I want to reach this goal and I want to push myself. And that's how I work. So it doesn't matter the size of it, you know. It can be a small or a big goal. Yeah, but goals shift all the time, as you said. It can be at some point I want to play in arenas. Then I want to release an EP. I want to start my channel. And I want to develop everything. I want to develop my business. And overall, those are goals, and it's very important. Otherwise, we'll just like let ourselves go.
Second question was that actually, if you hit every goal you have right now tomorrow, would the need to prove yourself actually go away, or just move to a new target?
That's an impossible question, because as I said earlier, you never the point of having a goal is that you will always want more. You're never going to reach that goal. So you can always do better. You know, I want to play in the arena. Okay, I've made this goal. But now I want to play in stadiums. You know what I mean? You've played in stadiums, okay, and now I want to play live at the Super Bowl. There's always going to be something more. And but okay, let me picture myself. If I've reached maybe all the goals I have now today, I've reached all of them. I think I would find new goals at some point. Maybe not right away. Maybe of course you need to enjoy and appreciate what you do. It's really important to take time to appreciate what you have achieved and to be proud of yourself. You know, I'm a very self-critical person, but it's important to be proud of what you do and to honor your own work. But after this appreciation time, you know, give it time, you will always find new goals, you know. I want to move to another city, I want to live in the countryside, there's going to be a shift, but there's always going to be that something that wakes you up in the morning.
Maybe doing nothing also is a goal at some point in life.
You get bored of it.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you get bored of it, but like when I say doing nothing, I'll be more specific. Like, I had it in my life where I lived in Greece, and basically I was living just next to a meditation center, Osho meditation center. And all I was doing is meditating all day, like 6 hours a day. That was a goal. I was doing nothing but meditating, but it's still doing something.
How long did it last?
Like 6 months it lasted.
But at some point,
people
you found
do
yourself.
that. What about the monks, the Buddhist monks? What about them?
I don't know much about monks, but isn't their goal to find inner peace or something like that, I guess? Or to teach other people, to teach as much people as they can, like spiritual balance, you know, that's kind of a goal itself as well. But I don't the monks don't do nothing, you know, it's a work, you know. I think working on your spiritual and mental health is a goal itself. So they are basically they have goals, you know. Meditation, like, you know, doing meditation is not doing nothing, you know.
That's what I meant, yeah. So doing nothing is also a goal, because doing nothing is always also doing something. That's what I meant, you know. Doing
nothing, I would picture it as just laying on the bed all day. That's doing nothing. And at some point, I really get bored of it.
Some people just do nothing, you know. I know tons of people, they just do nothing.
Like they have no jobs, they just lay in bed all day.
Yeah, they just do nothing. They have money from their parents or whatever, and they just literally do nothing. Like, I know somebody, like, he has a wife, she goes to work, he doesn't do anything, he just chills the whole day. He takes care of his, you know, children, so he does not do nothing. Meaning, like, he does not seem to have such a drive and goals.
So he had a job?
Oh, he doesn't have a job.
He doesn't have a job, okay. But he's working with the children, right?
He has children, but they go all day to school. So during the day, he just does nothing. You know what I mean? There are people like that.
I think every situation is very specific, you know. Maybe you can be right, but on my side right now, I've got trouble picturing someone doing nothing for a long period of time, you know. Like you can do like nothing for a period to find, it's a meantime to find new goals, it's a period of time until you reach a new state of mind, doing nothing. But I've got trouble picturing someone literally doing nothing all the time for years and not having new goals, whatever the size, and being satisfied and happy and fully feeling fulfilled in its own life. But maybe I'm wrong. If you know people who actually do that and are completely happy, maybe that's fine. But
do you think it's important to be happy?
Well, it's a goal itself. I think it's a goal of life. As long as you're on this planet, you better be. Why not being happy?
What's more important, being happy or aligned? Because you can be also sad. Many times you can just not be happy all the time. But would you rather be like aligned and not as happy, or just happy and unaligned?
What do you mean by aligned?
Aligned. So the topic of this podcast is alignment, which means that you are completely connected to who you are as a person. You like Chicago house. Now, like there are tons of music that you probably dislike. The version of you who does the music that you dislike is the unaligned version of you. And sometimes people do things like that. They're not aligned with themselves. They don't really do what they love. Most people are unaligned with themselves. So what do you think is more important?
Ideally, you must be happy and aligned. I have trouble picturing someone being aligned and unhappy, but I can definitely picture someone reaching big goals, as we could think of, and being totally unhappy. I didn't think about it several times. When it comes to music, there's got this pressure now of doing music for TikTok, for example. Like your music must trend on TikTok. You must find a nice chorus, and of course you question yourself about it. Do I want to make music that trends on TikTok? Do I want to do that? Will I be aligned with myself if I make a song that actually works commercially, but which is totally not aligned with who I am? And the answer is definitely no. So I think happiness is not about happiness is not necessarily about reaching all of the goals. Maybe it's a nice compromise. Happiness first is a state of mind. I think it's a state of mind. It's maybe having some goals, and it's okay, and being totally okay with the fact of not reaching all of them. I've got these goals that I want to reach. I will not reach all of my goals, but I'm happy because I'm aligned with it.
Yeah, you're talking more about mindset, but you can define happiness like that for sure. But let's say you could be extremely aligned, knowing that your purpose is to help whatever your mission is, but help. But you can have a life where you just come home and it's just unhappy. Me personally, I think that it's more important to be aligned and actually like chasing like happiness as like a drug to chase. Like, okay, let's define happiness. But happiness for me, it's always the chase of like feeling good and etc. and stuff like that. But I think life isn't about just feeling good. However, I think it's way more about connection to your true self. Things that are aligned with you can just trigger other emotions than happiness, such as you love someone, okay, you're in love with that person, but it's the wrong person, and it's just unaligned with you to be with that person, and you just have to choose alignment over the happiness, the feeling of happiness that this person gives to you, because at the same time it's underlined. So
I don't know
you
if
have to be
being
able.
in love with the wrong person is happiness. But for me, really, alignment and happiness, like maybe you're trying to oppose them, and I see them as being the same thing, actually, to my mind. But maybe it's because I'm biased, because one of the most important things I've always craved all my life is authenticity. On many different levels, as it can be professional, on a very personal level as well. I've always craved authenticity, and I cannot be happy without authenticity. That's for sure. I could get millions of streams, I could get millions of views on TikTok. If it's music that I don't like, if I make music that I don't like, if I make music for business freelance, I know I can get all the money in the world. I will never be happy. So for me, this is so alignment and happiness are so attached to one another that it's very difficult for me to differentiate them. For me, in my mind, so far, with alignment necessarily comes happiness.
But with happiness does not come alignment.
Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe alignment comes with happiness, And maybe you can be aligned and not being happy, because there are many people that are aligned. I'm an authentic person, but I am not necessarily happy in my everyday life because I don't earn enough money. I'm frustrated. Okay, maybe with alignment does not necessarily come happiness. But if you are happy, if you are a happy person, I think there must be alignment somewhere. You cannot be happy without alignment, but you can be aligned without happiness. Maybe that is what I would say right now.
So you would choose happiness over alignment, but or alignment over happiness. So because let's say like you are aligned, but you have a shitty life, but you're so aligned, because there are many people like that. Look, I'm an entrepreneur. Even now, I'm going to relaunch my music and stuff. I know how to make it work because I have that mindset. I know how to make it work. But so many artists, they don't know. It's not aligned with them to have the business mindset I have. And so they end up unhappy because they choose alignment.
I see what you mean. Yes. So you can be aligned with, you can be aligned and not necessarily happy, but not totally unhappy. I don't think this person are totally unhappy, because life is made of choices. Life is choices. So they choose to be aligned over, being unaligned and unhappy. So they may not be happy being aligned, but they have trouble picturing someone aligned and totally 100% unhappy, Maybe there's a state in between being happy and unhappy. There's a whole...
I know what you mean with with wanting to not actually oppositing them, but I think there's many people who are aligned who are unhappy, But
as I said, it's a mindset. Maybe they are aligned, but they must find the right mindset. Being happy is not about feeling good from Monday to Sunday. Being happy.
You think that happiness is a mindset?
It's knowing that you're not totally happy. There's times, there are bad times, but to be happy, happiness is being happy is to feel happy even in the bad times, if that makes sense. Even if you had a work day, you cannot pay your rent, but even though my life is not perfect, I'm aligned and I'm aligned and I'm happy. It's a mindset. There's a person who are aligned and who do not necessarily have the happiness that comes with it. They don't have the right mindset. They got something that they need to unlock inside of them. Maybe.
Yeah. So what you're talking about ultimately is more of a mindset than like happiness, which we can call happiness some kind of mindset.
The mindset unlocks the happiness.
Exactly. So mindset is more important than happiness because mindset triggers happiness. I personally think so. I think mindset and alignment is more powerful than happiness on its own. Because with mindset comes happiness. With happiness does not come mindset. There's tons of happy people who don't have the mindset.
You can be happy. Can you be happy without the mindset? Is the question.
You can be probably happy without. So happiness is a mindset, as you said. I think that happiness is actually a mindset.
Yeah, because even though you've got you reach many goals, you've got a nice situation, you can feel unhappy or not 100% happy or whatever. So I would say maybe the happiness comes after the mindset, and you cannot have happiness without the mindset.
So mindset. So you have to create some ranking. You put mindset at the top.
I would say yes, because mindset. Because happiness is a mindset. Happiness is a mindset. So you need to that will be there. And alignment. Yes. So I'm saying that mindset is equal to happiness, and that alignment is below. Because you can be aligned. If you have the wrong mindset, you can be completely unhappy.
True.
That would be maybe my final answer on the.
Okay, so what's interesting about this conversation is that I believe that we teach people to be happy. That's the goal of life, being happy.
Yes.
But now that you say it, don't you think that we should teach mindset rather than happiness?
I agree. I think that instead of saying to people, you must be happy, we should say people, find the right mindset inside of you. And this will lead necessarily to happiness. So maybe saying you need to find happiness is the same thing as saying mindset, since we said that mindset is equal to happiness. So
we said that mindset is the root of happiness because happiness is a mindset. So probably you have to focus on mindset rather than happiness because it's the root of it. You know what I mean? Like you can't have a tree without the seed of it, Yeah,
I think ultimately both are important. But if you have to choose, if really you have to choose between the both, I would say mindset would be more important.
We're going to talk about childhood. So what's something you needed as a kid that you've been trying to give yourself as an adult ever since?
The first answer that comes to my mind is authenticity or freedom, like the freedom of being myself. That would be my answer. Because growing up, I always felt that I needed to act to survive. Whether it was at home or with my friends or at school, I always needed to act to protect myself for various reasons. And my very first goal was that as an adult later, I would not have to, I don't want to act anymore. I just want to be the full version, 100% version of myself. And
Aligned.
Exactly, I wanted to feel aligned. I was really craving for authenticity because I've always been a creative person, and I would listen to Freddie Mercury or Madonna when the others would listen to rap music maybe, and I needed to act a certain way at school to survive to the environment. So yeah, I just wanted to live. Yes, I was definitely craving for freedom.
Yeah, because you seem to be someone who's really empowered.
Empowered? How?
Yeah, because empowered of being yourself, empowered of like, this is me, like I've learned to be fully authentically me. You give some sort of empowered energy. That's what I feel.
It's definitely a gift that I did to myself. I think we were talking about goals earlier, so that's the goal that's a goal I've reached. That's why I've got many goals, but this is one of them. If you would have asked me, if one of your questions were, did you succeed in giving you that? Did you reach this goal as a kid that you wanted as a child? My answer today is yes. I live in a neighborhood where I've got the freedom to be myself, to dress however I want, to, I dyed my hair, I can do it, which is something I could not necessarily do like anywhere or with my environment. And being an artist will be maybe the hardest part, and this is a gift I did to myself as well. Yes, maybe as an adult, one of my goals is to make the younger version of myself proud, and I think this is something today that I've reached. I think I did that. I feel that I can be myself around my friends and even in my work. I'm not rich in terms of money, but I get to meet fantastic people every day who inspire me and who give me the freedom of being myself and who empower me, as you mentioned. And this is definitely a goal that I did achieve now, I think. I feel aligned with what I wanted, for sure.
I'm going to challenge you a bit on the idea of authenticity. I think that some of what people call authenticity online is also sometimes a form of performance as well for some people.
I think I see what you mean. Of course, yes, there are people who are creating. Yeah, I've seen people create their own identities on social media. So because performing on social media is kind of faking. It is for me faking an identity and an authenticity that maybe you do not necessarily have.
So do you feel, to some extent, then like inauthentic and unaligned when you do something for the social?
I do feel authentic when I post on social media, because this is actually the goal of everything I do. Being an artist, as I mentioned, what the goal was to be authentic, and I don't see myself doing something that I am not. But the thing is, you do not always have one personality. You've got different personalities according to who you are with, where you are, what you do, and which is why I didn't use my real name when I became an artist. My real name is Armin, and Sylvio B is a part of my personality. I'm not Sylvio B all the time. I'm not Sylvio B grocery store, but it's still me with another version of me. And with Sylvio B, I think that I can fulfill all of my fantasies, all of my creativity with Sylvio B. And this is the part that I post on social media. It's still me, but it's not me from Monday to Sunday. It's me when I'm Sylvio B the artist. So yes, when I release music videos and that I dance, this is something, it's a part of me for sure. It is me, but it's not me like all the time. It's the creative part for sure. And I do feel authentic in that way. When I do things, I don't do this for thinking business or thinking money. I do think because I believe in authenticity and I believe in the strength of the community as well. I've collaborated with people that I admired and I wanted to push forward as well. I've worked a lot with the voguing community, the ballroom community a lot. And it's definitely a part of who I am. This is genuinely, it's a real me. And that's what I post. And I'm a DJ and I'm a music producer and I'm a creative person and I'm an artist and I love my friends. And that is basically what I post on social media. So now that I think about it, I don't think there's a post it was always me, but to some extent, some different versions of me, if that makes sense.
To some extent, I feel like what you're calling authenticity, it's alignment.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, like, you are multiple things. So what is actually authenticity in that spectrum of things that you are, but more like being aligned to all these aspects of you then?
Yes, you have to be aligned for sure. Otherwise, as mentioned earlier, I wouldn't be happy doing what I do. Yeah, and even the kind of music I do, it's I make house music. If I wanted to be like to create, to have a lot of money, I would do other genres. It's not that trendy at the moment. At least that's what I feel here in Paris. But there's always been since childhood this need of being authentic and being myself. So this is what I do, and I wouldn't feel happy doing anything else. And this is more important than the rest. I mean, if people are happy with being totally unauthentic and performing on social media, I'm good for them, but that's not, I wouldn't be happy, I would be worse. I think I would be unhappy posting or sharing things that are not aligned with my values and my personality.
Do you think that authenticity is also a form to prove who we are then? I always felt different because I never fit in the mold, at school or whatever. Most people don't do music, like when you're like talented for music at a young age and stuff, it's really weird, and you're not like so popular and stuff, whatever, you know what I mean? But you're still, wear your own fashion, you're still like wear your own stuff, and you're like brand yourself like, this is me, fuck you, you know what I mean? So do you think that authenticity is some sort of like proving yourself mechanism?
I don't think so, because it's part of who you are. It's something you cannot help but being yourself. You can try, you can act, and it's always easier, to be like everyone else. Life is just easier, I guess, on many levels. But if you have to go to a point that you need to liberate yourself and to be proud of this authenticity, it's I think, it's basically it's who you are, and you cannot help but being who you are. Maybe at some extent, with the example that you mentioned, it is the self-empowerment. I think that society doesn't empower marginalized people. It doesn't empower people who feel different. So you got no choice but to self-empower you need to empower yourself somehow. Hence the rebellious side that you can have. You need to self-empower if no one else will.
Do you think then like it's more important to teach empowerment and mindset than like happiness?
Probably, yes. I think it is. Empowerment and mindset are so important. And you cannot find happiness without the two, as we mentioned earlier. So those are important values that you need to teach at school, I think, in my opinion.
One last challenging question, and then we're off. Okay, do you think the audience doesn't actually care about your artistic integrity nearly as much as you think they do? And what would you say to that?
No, I think they do care. I think the audience does care about artistic integrity way more than people think, because it's true that we've got this tendency to think that it's all performance on social media, and many people make it by performing. It's all performance. But I think for me, making it is living of your heart 100% will be making it. To have a 20 year of career in music is making it, and to make it, you need to have a community around you. You need to have a community a solid community that stands with you for years, for a long period of time. It's a relationship that you build. And I don't think that you can build a real deep relationship if you do not have this artistic integrity. Because it can work for 1 or 2 years, maybe 1 or 2 seasons. But at some point, to make it last on the long run, you need to have this artistic integrity, because the audience is not stupid. The audience knows, always. At some point, they can see who is genuine, who is authentic, and who is not. Whether it's authenticity in your values, in your work, in your art, the audience knows this stuff. So I think the audience does care. It's just that social media puts emphasis on the people who get their momentum very quickly. Social media puts emphasis on the people who's got this momentum of like, wow, the new hit boy, the new hit
virality. Momentum.
Exactly. Like, who's hot this summer? Who's hot this winter, with
Then they shift.
with the new artists, and everyone sees those people for like 2 months, but 1 year, 2 years later, they're back working at their day job. That's really what happens with social media. Shows what they want to show, and we see what Instagram or TikTok, we see what they want us to see. But to have a real career in music, to be a musician, to live of your art on the long run, you need to create a relationship. It's all about relationship with your art, and you need this integrity, otherwise you're doomed, in my opinion.
So someone like, I'm gonna take like the most obvious example, and I'm not criticizing it. David Guetta, he has artistic integrity.
To some extent, yes. David Guetta has always been just authentic on his values, and I think that's a big part of how he became David. Not the only part, but obviously I don't do his music, obviously. But I've always, even to this day, I have a deep respect for David Guetta. Because David Guetta has always been has always been aligned with his values. David Guetta used to work at Les Bains Douches or at the Queen, in the 90s. It was not really trendy, for a straight guy to hang out in gay clubs like that. David Guetta did it because it was his values. David Guetta has always been a tolerant, open-minded person. He's been open-minded like that, and it definitely did open doors for him, I think, because he created, this relationship like that, and because that's music, it's a relationship that leads to another, that leads to business opportunities, that leads to, and so on, and that's how you build that, and you create your audience as well. And David Guetta has been authentic since day one when it comes to his personality and his values. And David Guetta, I don't think what he shows is, it's used genuine personality. He's always been he's always had a real deep respect for nightlife. David Guetta used to work as a manager at Les Bains Douches, artistic director at Les Bains Douches, and he's got this passion in him. It's interesting because I saw an interview of him like a few months ago. He would say that at 16 he would learn how to beat match, with tracks that he would record he would record tapes when he was 16 or 17. So David Guetta made it because he was authentically passionate about this job and about nightlife and about the people of nightlife. And that's a part of how I think he made it. So on this part, he can be authentic. When it comes to music production, I don't know. Honestly, I couldn't tell. He evolved for sure, but I don't know to what. I couldn't say. But there is authenticity in him for sure.
The amount of success he has is the byproduct of the initial integrity to his values and to the why he started, when no one was actually doing it, no one was watching and stuff like that, and he probably carried that over to now. I think that it was Vice who said that last time, that it's actually also really easy to be not fully aligned in the music industry, because you get things that are thrown away at you, like you just said. Things happen, new relationship, Black Eyed Peas who ask you to do something, I don't know, and then you get into that pop scene, and then you get into making a hit, and then you're like, oh, should I make another hit? But maybe the first reason why it happened was not the actual intention, and so then you actually is there and you just keep up with what's happening to you. Super nice conversation with Sylvio B. How did you feel about this?
Well, it made me think about several topics like this that I didn't think about before. So I think it's definitely a conversation I will think about, later, in the coming days.
It will keep growing inside us.
Yes, exactly.
At the start of this conversation, neither of us knew we were going to land there, but we did. We shouldn't be teaching people to be happy. We should be teaching people to find the right mindset, because happiness is just a byproduct. Alignment is the work. You can be happy, you can be aligned and not happy yet, but you cannot truly be happy without first being aligned. That's what this podcast is really about. If this hit you, the most useful thing you can do is hit follow. That is literally what keeps this show alive. See you next week.